Okay, before that, does anyone have any questions or any doubts from the last class? No? Okay. Now, had we covered this JavaScript part yesterday?
We
Yes,
have
sir.
to start with SQL injection.
SQL injection, right? Okay. So let's talk about that now. Before we move on to SQL injection, I need to know whether you all are familiar with what SQL is and where it's used, how it's used. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, sir.
What about the others? Yes. Okay. So let's cover the basics of SQL first before I start talking about SQL injection. Now, I have this tab open here. Now, SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and this is used to interact with a database. So when we have a website, that website part is the front end of your web application, which is accessible to users. Anyone over the internet can access that website and then like make use of it, interact with the website. Now this website, most websites will be using some kind of database to store user information and account details and all of those things. But this database is not directly accessible to the user because this is in your backend. Your web server and database server can communicate with each other, but users cannot.
Sir, have you shared the screen?
No, not right
No,
now.
right?
So your web server and your database server, they can both interact with each other, but your users do not have access to a web server. So just let me share this tab. We can see a little bit of SQL here. So wait a moment. Currently the screen is not visible, right?
No.
No. Okay. Now it should be visible again. So this is for SQL. If you want to learn about SQL, then you have one resource is w3schools.com, and not just SQL. There's a lot of other languages related to programming or web development. You have HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all of these for web development. Even PHP and Bootstrap. You have Python, jQuery, a lot of stuff. And SQL also, if you want to, like, if you want to learn about SQL, then you can visit this website. And they have a lot of examples, lots of practicals that you can try out by yourself, and all of these different topics. you have with regards to SQL. Now, the main thing we need to know about SQL when we talk about SQL injection is querying the database. So, querying the database using the select statement. Now, what this does is it extracts some data from the database depending on what parameters you have specified. So the general syntax is select. Okay, before I talk about select, I need to talk about something first. Now, in a database, there are lots of different tables. Depending on what kind of database it is, there may be just one table or it may have many tables, but there's no limit. So database is made up of tables like the one shown here. And tables are made up of different columns, and each column has its specific name. So customer ID in this case, customer name, contact name, address, city, postal code, country, and all of these belong to this customers table. And this table belongs to this database Northwind. So the hierarchy is database contains tables, tables contain columns, and columns contain all these different entries. So the general syntax of selecting something from a database table is select. You write the select word and the names of the columns that you want to get the data from, and then you write the keyword from and the name of the table. So select in this case column 1, column 2 from table name, and you add a semicolon to the end. So you can add as many columns as you want here, provided that the number of columns you are specifying are all present in the table, and you don't specify more than the number of columns that are present. That is going to give you an error. So you can specify as many columns as you want, one column or all columns. Now, in case you want all the data from a table, you will do this select star or asterisk, whatever you want to call it, from table name. So in this case, the example table that has been given, if you want to select any particular column, let's say I want to select customer ID and name. So for that, I would write
It
select.
is just like MySQL.
Hmm?
It is just like MySQL.
Yeah, MySQL is also an implementation of SQL itself. So it's the same similar thing. So I would use here in this case select customer ID, customer name. If these are the two columns I want to select from, and I would after from I would add the name of the table, which is customers. And they've also given examples for that. Let's say you want to select name and city. So you add the name of the column, whatever you want to select, you can separate them with a comma. Select customer name, city from, and the table name customers, and add a semicolon after that. Now you can also try it in the browser for this on this W3 schools domain. You can try all these commands out within the browser itself. So you can take a look at this website, and there's also another website that we see here. See, when you talked about MySQL, there's different database technologies like MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, PostgreSQL, different things, and there are minor syntax variations in these, but how SQL works, that is the same. So there's this other website called sqlzoo.net, and again there are different tutorials here. So if we go to the basic one, now they have this table called world. It has different columns: name, continent, area, population, GDP, And there's other ones as well. They haven't shown the entire thing here. So they have some practice exercises, so you can practice here as well and learn more about this. Now, one thing is you select the entire column. Okay, select continent from world. That will give you the content of the entire column. But let's say you only want to select those continents which have a population greater than what you specified, or let's say you only want to specify the sorry, you only want to select the population or the area belonging to a particular country. So what you do there is you add a where clause. So this where clause specifies a condition. Based on that condition, your results will be filtered. So if I delete this one right now, select population from world, so submit SQL, it's selecting the entire population column. Of course, directly this column is not any use to us because this is just a list of different population numbers. We don't know what corresponds to what country. But similarly, if you specify any other column, like let's say select name from world, then you have the names of the different countries in the table. Now it says that we want to modify the SQL statement in order to be able to see the population of Germany. So we need to select population, and now we need to specify a condition about the no, name, because we only want to see the details for Germany particularly. So in the where clause, now I'll add a condition where name is equal to, and specify the name that we are looking for. So Germany. Select. So we get the population and it tells us that this is the correct answer.
So it is a case sensitive language. It is a case sensitive language.
Yeah, you have to be careful about what you're typing. If I type this, of course you have to provide the correct thing. Now normally this should not work, but
No, it's not a case sensitive.
these ones are not case sensitive. Select and from are not case sensitive, but these values, from what I've seen,
Like,
most cases.
can you change the name?
No,
to
sir.
that?
Even those values are also not case sensitive.
Okay. Select statements, from statements, where statements. These can be written any how you want them. If I write this, even this would work. So that does not make any difference, but okay. So it's not case sensitive, and these values are not case sensitive. So you can be a little careless with that, but okay, let's see. However, if you write these keywords and you capitalize them, that just makes it easier to emphasize where to make your edits if you want to change the statements. That's why we highlight them, and to be able to identify between the keywords and the column names or other parameters that we specify. So now in this second example, they have shown a different kind of where clause where you are including a list, and the statement is select name population. So you're selecting two columns this time from world, which is the table, where name in this list. So in this case, we are going to see the data, or not the entire data, but the name and population columns for countries whose name is in this list. So if I run this statement, it is going to show me names and populations for these 4 countries. If I remove this entry, then that is going to be removed from the result. So just remove. And let's say I want to see all data from these countries. So instead of name and population, I simply say select star. So for these 3 countries, I'm going to see all the columns. Now what they want us to do is to show the name and population for Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. So what we can do, name, and this Sanskrit score, and Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. Right. Go with China here. Submit. So this is the answer that we wanted. Now similarly, there's lots of different kind of queries. Like in this example, you are comparing values fall between a specified range. So area, now area is a numerical value, so you can use range comparisons here to see which countries have areas mentioned in square kilometer and areas between 250,000 and 300,000 square kilometer. It's saying system error. Okay, maybe there was something wrong with the server, but now it's saying that these 4 are the countries which fulfill this condition. So their area lies between 250,000 and 300,000 square kilometers. And all they're asking us to do in this case is simply modify that to 200,000 and 250,000. So now that's the answer in this case. Similarly, there's lots of other kinds of statements that you can practice. I'm not going to go too in depth about SQL. So we'll see the part that we need with regards to SQL statements, with regards to SQL injection. Whatever we need, that much we'll see. But understanding how select statements work, how from and where work, that is important. So any questions here? No? Okay. Let's go back to our DBW. Okay, so this DBW should be visible to everyone now. Can you see this? So now looking here, what we see is there is a field, it's asking us for a user ID. So let's see what happens when I enter any user ID here. If I enter, let's say 1 and submit. So it's giving me the first name and surname for ID 1. Similarly, if I were to present it with another ID, I would get the details for that. let's say ID 3 again. So okay, this entry simply says hacking 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to give. You'll get the name regarding the user whose whose ID you specify. So this is the intended working for the intended functioning for this page. It simply gives you the name associated with the particular user ID. Now, what is happening in the background, if you think about it from an SQL perspective, is that there is an SQL query running in the background. So without looking at the source code, can anyone tell me what query is running or what the basic structure of the query might be like?
It is select ID, first name, surname from the table where ID is equal to.
Yeah, okay, so that's right. So that is the SQL query that is running in the background here. When we are specifying an ID, it is showing us the corresponding details by selecting only those columns. But this does not mean that that's the only kind of information available in the table. Okay, there's, in a table, there might be lots of different columns. The only information we'll see here is whatever columns are specified in a particular query that might be running. So keep that in mind whenever you are trying to perform SQL injection. Now, instead of an, okay, we tried 5, let's try 6. What happens? So no answer. That means there are only 5 users. Now, to check for SQL injection, I'll simply try single quote and press enter. Now I get a message that you have an error in your SQL syntax. Check the manual that corresponds to your server version for the right syntax to use near. It's just a set of single quotes. Now, if we get this kind of an error message when we use a single quote, that is a kind of indication that this particular web application, this particular input field might be vulnerable to SQL injection. So whenever you can get this kind of thing, you should think that okay, this might be vulnerable to SQL injection. It's not necessary that you will be able to extract any information or you will be able to actually perform SQL injection, but it might be vulnerable. So there's a possibility. Now, since we have done that check, now, okay, let me talk about why this check is done, like why we do, because in SQL queries, for any parameters that you specify, you can use single quotes as delimiters. So if you're adding an extra quote, it actually breaks the query and gives you an error like this. So instead of typing 1 here, there is this concept of true and false statements. I can simply type 1 or 1 is equal to 1. What does this mean? This means that the query becomes select first name, surname from users where ID is equal to 1 or 1 is equal to 1. So effectively, the statement it processes is that you give give us the first name and surname wherever either the ID is equal to 1 or 1 is equal to 1. Now if I say 1 is equal to 1, this is always going to be true because 1 is always equal to 1. This is always going to be true because 1 is always equal to 1. So if user ID is equal to 1, then this statement will be true, and if 1 is equal to 1, that is always true. So it will show us the user ID, sorry, it will show us the details for all the accounts in this case. But keep in mind that there are single quotes involved. So the query is something like this. Select first name, last name. I don't know the exact names. I'm just using F name, L name. From users, this is probably the name of the table. That's not important right now. What is important is what is happening. Where ID is equal to, and there's this pair of single quotes, and this whatever we specify as the input is going to come between these single quotes. Now if I'm specifying ID is equal to 1 or ID is equal to 2, then it's giving me the results accordingly. But since I want to perform SQL injection, I want to inject some code of my own to get even more data than I should be getting. I could write 2 or 1 is equal to 1. But I need to keep in mind these quotes. Now, since there's already a quote before and after this, so I need to add one here. I need to add one here. And I need to add one here. So for our statement, what we can do is one or 1 is equal to 1. Let's try running this. So now we are able to perform SQL injection, and we have received this data, first name and surname, for all available users, which is 5 users basically. So we've received all the names for these users through SQL injection. So is everyone following so far what we are doing? Is this clear to everyone?
So why this statement only 1 or 1 is equal to 1?
Why this statement? Actually, I'm not bound to just use this statement. In this, after the or part, I need to specify something that's true. That's a true statement. Instead of 1 is equal to 1, you can say 2 is equal to 2, 3 is equal to 3, 0 is equal to 0, whatever you want to say, because that is always going to be true. And even in case of ID, I don't need to use 1. That's just, for example, if I can use any ID I want, I can even try it without specifying any ID and let it be blank. Let's see whether that works. Or 2 is equal to 2. So this is working as well. Instead of ID, I haven't specified anything, but since 2 is equal to 2 will always be true, that's why SQL injection works in this case as well. We use this second part because we need to specify a statement which is always true. Now a number is always equal to itself. That's why 1 is equal to 1 or 2 is equal to 2 is always going to work. if your application is vulnerable to this kind of attack. Is it clear now?
So yes.
Okay. Just excuse me. Just excuse me for a couple of minutes. I'll be back and we can continue. Okay, now this is one way to perform SQL injection. There are other different ways and other different payloads that we can use. Currently, all we are doing is we are supplying an OR, and we are specifying a second condition which is always true. Now let's try something else. After this quote and end that statement, you can try entering your own statement. Select star from users, and okay, so this is giving me an error. Okay, let us try something else. This is also giving us errors. So these things might or might not work, but if this works correctly, then it will give you all the users in the table. Let's keep trying. This should definitely not work. Let's see. So, okay. Okay, we'll try this another time. Now there is a concept known as a union clause in SQL. What that does is it combines two different select statements. So let me just show you how that works first. Okay, so I'm going to show you what union is, and then we are going to see it within our uh, injection parameters. So the union operator in SQL is used to combine the result set of multiple select statements. So this is the syntax: select names of columns from first table, union, select, and the names of columns from second table. And these columns must be like the number of columns in both of these must be the same, and they must be of the similar data types. So columns are different data types, like varchar for characters, or integer int for numerical columns. So if you are combining those results, you need to make sure that those columns correspondingly have the similar data types. So here they have given an example of union, and there are two tables, customers and suppliers. Both have different columns, different values. So this is a statement, sample statement for union: select city from customers, union, select city from suppliers. Forget this order by part right now. So if you try it, what happens is, if you run this, then you'll get one record, and how many columns does this have? Okay, they've just shown a few ones here, but the actual columns are much larger. So it will combine both the columns and combine both the tables and select all the unique values from within those columns and create them as a result. Now what you're seeing here is select city from customers, union, select city from suppliers. If I just remove this order by city, just run this. Yes. So it has run this statement, and this is, since both these union statements, both these select statements have just one column, the result is also going to be one column. If both of these have two columns, the result will be two columns. So you need to make sure that the number of columns and the type of column in both the statements is the same when you are making such kind of a union statement. And this union keyword is something that is used when it comes to SQL injection. That's why I brought it up here. Now, what we do is we take the original statement, okay, just add this to it, sorry, just add this single quote to it because we are not specifying any user ID. And now let's say I want to figure out the version of the database that is being used, and that information can help me in two ways. One is it will help me figure out what exactly the kind of queries I want to use, and the other is if there is any particular vulnerabilities in the database which I can find using Metasploit or exploit DB, then that is also useful to me. So for that, now here is where I'm going to use the union uh, clause. So there is already a statement running in the background, select first name, surname from users, where this ID is equal to, and the input is being given by us. So we are just adding another statement to that. Now I was talking about finding the version. So for finding the version, there is this database variable known as version, which you can access using this @version. But if I just try to run it directly, just try to run this, it is going to tell me that the used select statements have a different number of columns. Why? Because in the first statement there are more columns, and in the second statement there is just one. So I can simply add more columns to the statement by using select one comma @version. So the value for the first column will all be 1, and for the version that we needed, this is the version, and the name of the column it's going to give as the first one, as the one specified in the database. But that does not matter, we got the value that we needed, which is the version of the database. Now we can move on to finding other kinds of information. Let's try finding out the host name. So I'll just use a similar query, union select one not version but host name. So Parrot, which tells us the system that I'm using, and this is because I'm using Parrot OS, so this is the host name for this system. So similarly, you can find the system host name using this as well, the host name for whatever target system is present. So we have figured out the host name as well as the database version. Now there is another technique for figuring out column names. So, and that makes use of the order by clause. So let's discuss order by. So, okay, we still have this open. And if you come to order by, so when you run a select statement to get some data, you can use the order by to use some particular column to sort the data. And by default, it is going to sort in ascending order. If you want to sort in descending one, then you have to use the DESC keyword. So select whatever columns you want from table name, order by whatever column you want to sort it using. And even here you can order multiple columns. So first it will be sorted by this one, then this, and so on. So now what I can do is, if I want to figure out number of columns, then I can make use of this, what do you call it, order by. I can make use of that. So we already have the select statement written. I can say order by 1, let's say. Now it didn't give us an error. That means the statement ran successfully. So there is at least one column in the result. Now this thing is more useful in blind SQL, blind SQL injection. But in case you're not able to figure out the number of columns exactly. Now let's say order by 2. So order by column number 2 in this case. That's also fine. Order by 3. Unknown column 3 in order clause. So there's only 2 columns which are a part of the underlying statement in use here. Now the underlying statement is this: select first name last name from users where user ID is equal to this. So yes, it's true, there are only 2 columns, but this information of course is not going to be this SQL query. The exact query is not going to be visible to you in a realistic situation. It's visible to us because DBWA provides the source as well, but this will not be the case for an actual application or a web application that you might come across. So you need to keep that in mind as well.
Sir, according to that SQL statement, we have 3 fields, right? We have 3 fields, that is user ID, first name, and surname.
No, according to the statement just has this first name and last name. It's also specifying the ID value that you input, but it's not getting that value from the database. Its output is always the value that you specify. Okay, take a look at the previous. Let's say I just enter the value 3. Now this is user input. So 3 is output, and the other 2, first name and last name.
Yeah,
But if I'm using this, let's say this one, then for the ID, it's going to take our input. Whatever input we have specified, it's simply outputting that. The actual statement is only using 2 columns.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So where was I? Yeah, union. clause we were talking about, let's see in a few different things. Now, it would also be useful for us to find the database name. So let's try that. Again, we are going to use the union clause. This union select and database. So it says use select statements have a different number of columns. Select one database. Let's see. So this works, and the name of the database is DBWA. And we know that already because we have configured DBWA in our systems, but this information is useful in an actual attack, because now that you know the database name, you can try and figure out more information. Now let's try to figure out the different tables here. Select this is not going to work here. Table name does not work like that. So for table name, we have to refer to from information underscore schema dot tables. That is what you have to use for the table name. So now you will get all the different tables that are a part of this database basically. The users, guest book, and all the others tables that we have. So you get all the information about the tables present in the database, and you can see why this is a very critical vulnerability, because this is giving you all the information about the database. You are able to basically see everything that is in the database. So SQL injection, if you find that a website is vulnerable to it, you could possibly extract a lot of sensitive data from there. That's why it's important from a developer's point of view that you pay good attention, pay a lot of attention to the kind of database technology you're using, and how you can prevent injection in that. That depends on what database server you are using and what language you are using. I mean, not language, like what implementation, like MySQL or SQL Server, PostgreSQL, SQLite, lots of different things. So you need to keep that in mind. Everyone is following so far.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you do spend some time with this, practice this on DVWA, see what kind of commands you run, get familiar with those. And of course I have still a bit of SQL injection to cover, but do practice this, because this is a very important topic that you should know about, both from an ethical hacking point of view as well as from the exam point of view if you are appearing for the certification. Let me try one more thing. Let's see what it works here. Gap table name, I think. Okay, this is basically doing the same thing. Now let's try figuring out the number of columns in this table. So we use select one, union select one, concat column name from information schema dot columns, where table is equal to. Now let's try to figure out the number of columns in the users table. So where table, actually not table, where table underscore name is equal to users. So let's try this. Now we have the different we have the names of the different columns present in the users table. So we have user ID, first name, last name, user, password, avatar, last login, and failed login. So these are all the different columns. We try something else. Cat. This one we don't need. Okay. So in this case, we use the statement union select one Now we need to add this 1 because the number of uh, columns in both select statements for union needs to be the same. So we need to add this extra column. And column name, we use the column name column from information schema dot columns, where table name is equal to users. So these are the things which information schema and all, these are all the parts, the internal tables within your database, or in this case our MySQL database. So we use this to figure out the different column names from our users table. So we now know that these are the names of all the different columns present here. Yes. So now what we have done is we have done single quote union select user password from the users table. So in the previous query search results, we found out that there was a column called user and there was a column called password. So the username was this and this was the password. So we simply use that from the same table where first name and surname are present, and that is something that you can do. You can run a union for two select statements from the same table. So we selected user and password. Now the usernames for all the 5 accounts are here. For admin, this is the username. For Gordon Brown, Gordon B, and passwords. Now, these are not the exact passwords. If you enter this into the password value, you will not be able to log in. These are the hashes of the passwords. So these are hashes. And one way to look at these hashes is, let's say, copy this, look at hash identifier, paste the hash. So MD5 again, we go to this MD5 online decryption. Paste the hash, decrypt. Let's see whether we get answer for this or not. Okay, so we have found the value corresponding to this hash and it's Charlie. So its username is 1337 or leaked. Let's try logging as that. Charlie. So we are able to log in. If I go to any of the pages, okay, it's saying username is this. We are able to log in as that user now. So through SQL injection, we have basically found out the password for all the users, basically password hashes, and we can crack those and get the actual passwords. You are at SQL injection. So this is low security. If I change the security level, actually what will happen is that that input field will go away and I'll get this drop down list. If I click on submit here, again it will work like before. So in this case, if I want to perform SQL injection, what option do I have? Can anyone take a guess? what can I do to try and inject my query, inject my SQL injection queries in this now? What can I try? No guesses so far on this.
Using other day we did with the JavaScript or CSRF. CSRF. That we can do, right?
No, I won't be able to use JavaScript here. JavaScript has nothing to do with SQL injection actually. In this case, there is no JavaScript. You guys
Other
forget
burp.
burp. Yes, burp. Always keep in mind that whenever you're using a browser to do anything, you can always use burp to modify your requests. In this case, we are going to make use of that. We're going to make use of burp suite. Okay, for some reason there's just two of you left now. The entire class is gone. I don't know why people keep leaving in the middle. So what we are going to do now is intercept that request in burp, and then we'll be able to perform the SQL injection via that. So proxy service is running, intercept is on, and we need to tell our browser to intercept, to use burp as a proxy. Submit, and we have this request captured here now. So ID is equal to 1. Let's just try 1 is equal to 1 now. And again, that is working. In this case, without quotes, it's working. So we can use burp suite to inject all our SQL queries so that we can perform SQL injection this way. And there's one more tool in burp. Let's just try this again. Intercept on, submit, open this. I can send this to repeater. Just forward it like this, and within repeater, I can repeatedly send this request as many times as I want and view the response here. Only disadvantage is that it cannot show the response to us every time in the browser. Do one. So if I do this, this is the HTML response, and you can see this is the response that we get. We've received all 5 IDs details here through our payload. Now I can simply make as many changes I want here, keep repeatedly sending those requests and getting the response. So this repeater tool is very useful here when you want to perform SQL injection like this. And I'll continue more on this tomorrow. Any questions at this point?
Yes, sir. Just I want to try with this burps once. If I face any problem, I'll ask. Just 2 minutes. Sir, can I share my screen? And I want to understand, like I'm not getting this properly.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
What is work? Yes, that is something else. Submit intercept is on. Okay, work. Take a look at the URL. That's for a different domain. That's not for DBWA. If you have some other tabs open, something else open in your browser, that is no, this request is going from there. So just go to Burp. Go to Burp. Forward that request simply and uh, get to the request issued by Burp. Just forward that request. Click on forward. This is the request that you want. So let's try it again. What did you specify as the payload on? 1 is equal to 1. Okay, now forward this. What are we getting? So we're getting it. Okay, so what issue are you getting? What's happening? It's open, like it should. Okay, so
Sir, links.
which class links are you looking for? Particularly
Last 2 class, I guess.
last two. Okay,